Hey everybody, welcome to McClarty Woodworks. My name is Jeff, and today we're going to talk about a woodworker's worst nightmare, or at least one of them, and that would be kickback from your table saw. Now tonight I had a incident where there was some kickback, and luckily for myself, I had educated myself on table saws, I had educated myself on the dangers and ways to avoid some of the problems that can happen when using a table saw, and I educated myself on kickback. I watched a couple videos, saw some examples, and hopefully I can share some of that knowledge with you today. But first, just take a look at what happens and what kickback looks like. Alright, so hopefully as you noticed in the video, I was cutting down a piece of sheet good here for a project that is for my wife, and I had the factory edge, which is a straight edge, up against the fence, and you can see I'm using a homemade table saw. I don't have a branded table saw. I don't have a regular table saw. I actually made one, and that was because the fence on my old table saw was junk, for lack of a better term, and so I returned it, and I figured, well, I'm going to try and make one. I thought it'd be a cool project, and it seemed like it'd be easy, and so I made one out of a circular saw and some 2x4s and a sheet of 3/4 inch ply, and overall it actually turned out pretty well. I've posted some Instagram photos, and I've even got some video of it, but yeah, I lined up my fence, which is just I don't know, I think it's a 3/4 inch, or maybe actually it's a full inch piece of trim, and I lined it up with my T-square to the other side of the table saw, and I clamped it in. It was straight. I checked it after the kickback, and it was straight still, so it didn't move on me. But as I was pushing the sheet good through, which is not a very large sheet, and it was actually pretty flimsy, it's a half piece of birch, and as I was pushing through, I got down here, and I kind of had experienced a little bit of kickback up here, but it wasn't as bad. It was basically binding. It really wasn't even kickback. My blade and my saw it was just binding in the cut. But I got further down here in this cut down here, and I could kind of feel it resisting, and it sounded like the motor was hanging some, and I'm like, oh no. So as you probably saw, I slid the piece back and tried to do a little bit more, and it was kind of lifting on me. So just a couple of tips when you're dealing with kickback. As you saw in the video, I was using a push block and I had a push stick, and both are helpful. One of the first things you need to do is use something like this when you're cutting any type of wood. These things, push sticks or push blocks, are great. They're very helpful, and they can help you in these circumstances. But the primary thing you need to do first is don't panic. That's one of the worst things you can do, is if you panic, because typically when you panic, you do the second thing you shouldn't do, and that's take your hands off your work surface, off your workpiece. You should never do that, because what you're doing is you are removing the resistance on the board as you're holding it down with your push block or your push stick or both. You're removing the resistance from the blade where it's binding and the piece of wood, and you are basically saying, hey, have free will to kick back and hit me in the face or back in my stomach or whatever else. So don't panic and don't take your hands off the piece. Slowly back the piece out. Don't push forward through a kickback or through binding. Back the piece out. You can try the cut again, that's fine, but back the piece out. Let it sit for a second, try and figure out what's happening. Don't take your hands off it, and don't panic. Another thing is to stand to the side of your fence or your cut. Standing right behind a cut is dangerous, because you're giving it its most direct path is back or up and back, and it can hit you. Third thing I would say is don't remove riving knives from your table saw. I know a lot of people do this, and I don't know why. You're removing a safety feature that helps prevent kickback. So keep your riving knives on there. It's designed to help from the binding that happens when a piece is not pushed up flush against the fence or whatever it is, where the blade binds in the cut, whether you're doing cross cut, I don't know whatever cut you're doing, but it helps prevent, because it's a splitter on the back that's about the same width as the blade or maybe a little larger, and it helps split the wood and keep that from closing in and causing it to catch on the blade. So don't remove your riving knife. Don't panic. Don't take your hands off the work surface. Do keep your head. Stay calm. Back the piece out. Turn off your saw. And that'll help prevent any disasters that can happen from kickback. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully this gave you a little bit of knowledge, and it kind of showed you what kickback is, and it kind of showed you a way to handle it in a proper way. If you have any questions, you have any comments, you have any concerns, you have any criticisms, you can post them down below. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel for further updates and further videos. I hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you soon.